وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. No. Continue 3:07 p.m. Sunday, December the 16th, 2018. With the Gregorian calendar, which agrees now with the Hijri calendar, which is Rabi' al-Thani. I think now it's the 7th. The 7th of Rabi' al-Thani, Aam 1440. The year now, which is 1440 after the Hijrah, Mustafa alayhi salatu wassalam. As we continue in Buloogh Al-Maraam, which is titled Obtaining the Objective. I think that's how they translate it. Buloogh Al-Maraam, which is called Buloogh Al-Maraam, Obtaining the Objective. By the great illustrious Imam Ahmad ibn Ali ibn Hajar al-Asqalani rahimahullah, who died 852 after the Hijrah of Mustafa alayhi salatu wassalam. Continuing Kitab al-Nikah, the chapter of marriage. We were discussing the hadith on the authority of Hakim ibn Muawiyah upon his father, Muawiyah. He said that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, "Ma haqqu zawji ahadina alayh." He said, what is the right of our spouses, the spouses of one of us, upon him? Meaning, what's obligatory upon the man in regards to his spouse? He said that you feed her for what if you was to eat, and that you would clothe her if you was to clothe yourself, and you do not strike the face, and do not uglify it, and that you do not boycott except in the house. We were discussing this narration as we continue Kitab al-Nikah, what the Messenger of Allah ﷺ that he binded upon the spouse as far as the man to what? To carry out these obligations and these duties. So basically, to sum up, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ that said that this is the rights of the women over the man, that he has to feed her, clothe her, and likewise give her shelter. A person would think also, want to add on to something else, the Messenger of Allah also in this tremendous narration is as if he's saying she also deserves good treatment. Because if you look in the hadith, it says do not strike the face and do not uglify it. And we'll get into the details of it. And do not also what? Do not boycott except in the house. We talked about Ya Ma'ash al-Ikhwa wal-Akhawat. We said tut'imaha. When the Messenger of Allah said that you feed her what you feed yourself. We said that this is not restricted to just eating exactly of what a man would eat for himself, because we know people have different circumstances or health issues or what have you, or what they're allergic to the end of it. So, of what the man is obligatory upon him is to feed her. Feed her in those what? In those boundaries in which will give them comfortability in this regard, of course. Without israf, without going to the extremes, of course, and nor of wasting of food. Because we know that a lot of us, especially these days and times, all over the world, not just here in America, but all over the world, are very wasteful. But taking an affair and making it very moderate, and taking between both extremes a middle path and a middle course and being moderate. For the Messenger of Allah made this haqq obligatory upon the man, and it's all accordance to his spendings and his earnings, and out of his ability. As we discussed last class, we said that Allah Ta'ala says in his book, "Askinuhunna min haythu sakantum min wujidikum, liyunfiq dhu sa'atin min sa'atih, wa man qudira alayhi rizquhu falyunfiq mimma atahu Allah." To the end of the ayat, which is in Surah Al-Talaq, ayat number 6 and 7. So Allah Ta'ala, you'll find He mentions another haqq, which is not mentioned in this hadith. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala Himself has said, "Askinuhun," meaning give them a place to live. Meaning not as far as, meaning that allow them to be in a place where you're responsible, where you have to what? Give them shelter. to give them shelter, where you yourself live. And let the one who has the ability spend from his spendings, and whose provisions have been restricted, meaning that he doesn't have much, of course. He said, then let him spend of what Allah has given him. And Allah does not be overburden a soul beyond what Allah Ta'ala will give it. Meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never allow a human being to be tested with what he cannot tolerate. Meaning everyone will be tolerated or be tested according to their iman and according to their according to their strength in it. So one test can be light, and then another one's test could be can be more difficult. طيب. So Allah Ta'ala in this ayah has clearly made that the obligation of living or food and clothing, shelter, have been mentioned in all these narrations which we're mentioning, whether it be in the ayah itself or in the authentic sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So the ayah clearly shows that these affairs are binding upon the man. So everyone take that consideration, due to the fact that we know there are a lot of enemies of Islam that always tries to say that this religion is barbaric, or this religion oppresses women, or it's a chauvinistic type of, or male chauvinistic religion that just exercise or wants to be authoritative over women to the end of it. So these type of ambiguities are all removed. Well, you'll find that these narrations removes that notion and debunks a lot of these fallacies that the non-Muslims propagate in order for people not to accept the truth. So it says that food and clothing and shelter is binding upon the man. He's supposed to carry out these commands if he was to marry. If you notice that we said in the last, which is where we stopped at, the second part, when the Messenger of Allah said, يَكْسُوهَا مِمَّا يَلْبَسْ. Likewise, the man is binding upon him to clothe her. To clothe her, meaning buying what will give her what? Buying what will give her or satisfy her in that regard. Notice the great Imam that he mentions, it says in this, about this particular hadith, Sheikh Salih Fawzan. He said about this particular part, meaning that one clothes her from what he would clothe himself, or what he would dress with, what he would dress himself with. He said, يَكْسُوهَا مِثْلَ مَا يَكْسُو نَفْسَهُ مِنَ الْمُتَوَسِّطِ. That he clothes her similar to what he would clothe himself, of being moderate. أو مما يلبس الفقير إن كان فقيرا. Or with the person who's in poverty, he will clothe himself if he was in poverty. Now listen to this part. أو مما يلبس الغني إن كان غنيا. Or a person that is rich, if he's a person that's rich. That's similar, he will dress his wife similar to that. So this is the kalam of the ulama, not me. يساويها بنفسه في الكسوة. That he makes himself equal with her exactly in clothing. So man clothes himself for clothes his wife from how he would clothe himself. He said, إن كان غنيا يكسوها كسوة غني. كسوة غني. So if he was rich, he said he would clothe her with the clothing of one who is rich. And if he's impoverished, or if he's poor, then he likewise would do similar. He says if it's in moderacy, in being moderate. If it's being moderate. So, يَكْسُوهَا كِسْوَةَ مُتَوَسِّطٍ. He says he dresses or clothes her in a manner that's مُتَوَسِّط. That is moderate or middle course. And he makes her equal with himself. So he doesn't go to the extremes or goes beyond his ability. He doesn't go beyond his ability or goes to the extremes. For example, that he dresses her with clothes of that which is, for example, very expensive or high quality clothes, and he doesn't have the ability. He says, وَيَلْبَسْ وَهُوَ الْأَشْيَاءُ الْفَاخِرَةُ وَالثَّمِينَةُ. He said, now listen to this part. He said, let's just say, for example, he wears nice clothes. Now listen to this, everyone. ولا يلبس هو الأشياء الفاخرة الثمينة ويلبسها الأشياء الرديئة والأشياء الناقصة. هذا ظلم. He said he doesn't wear for himself, for example, expensive clothes or valuable clothes of their high price or high quality. Then he dresses her, clothes her with the lowliest. What is the lowly? What's considered lowly type wear or clothes? No stuff that is al-ashya' naqisa. No stuff that's incomplete that might have some type of holes in it or what have you. He said, but this is oppression. وَلَا يُقَبِّحُ فِي الْكَلَامِ. And that's the other part we'll get into in a minute. Talking about uglifying the face. So that shows, ya ma'ish al-ikhwa wal-akhawat, how the religion is a religion of what? A modesty of being, or if you want to say, being adequate, and also allowing one to what? To now give this right and fulfill this right of the wife over the husband. So number one, you'll find that this right is for the women over the what? Over the men. That the men, they're the ones who are the ones responsible. So the men are supposed to what? Fulfill the right in this regard. So that is in regards to what we said to our sisters and brothers. I keep re-emphasizing this, that we live in a circumstance that we know that a lot of our brothers and sisters are working both at the same time. And it's not just a one income based household. Rather, it's usually two, based upon certain people's circumstances or what have you. And there's a lot of them, because I don't have time to talk about the different circumstances, whether it be, for example, a man who was incarcerated and he just left out and he has to find somewhere to live. He's married to his wife and he can't find a job yet, and she's working. There's a lot of circumstances. So it's a lot. But the ultimate thing is, like we summarized in the last classes, we want our brothers just to be what? To be grateful that our sisters are out there that are working hard, and they're working in their circumstances where they have to go outside of their natural disposition of women in order to what? Make ends meet for the household. And we know that this is a situation that throws off the chemistry of how Allah has ordained things, no doubt. This throws off the way that it's supposed to be, and it does cause some type of what? Discomfort and chaos to a certain extent, where now, like we said, we constantly say to the couples, especially our brothers, to be more patient with our women, because every day they have to going outside their natural disposition just to keep a roof over the head of the couples. So be patient with your wife in regards to her working, if she's under those circumstances, and also likewise, be patient with her in certain things that you may want that is from the religion, that we all work towards every day, towards actualizing, because we know these affairs are in the hands of us as men. It's not for the women to be working like men or more, to the point where they're removed from their natural disposition of being a woman. But the circumstances out now, especially in this world or in this country, in these times we live in, which are very hard because of the disobedience of the human beings, have made the economy now a test, and now it forces the society for people now to go outside their roles in which Allah has created them, and which comes as a result of it, things are now chaotic somewhat. But that does not now remove us from now being patient with one another in order to what? For things to be harmonized in the house and to make do and good out of the bit in which we have. So we say in this regard, but we wanted to instill in the minds of our brothers that these affairs are what? Obligatory upon the men. So the Prophet ﷺ said what? Food, and likewise what? Clothing. So you notice clearly that Ahl Ilm, that the people of knowledge have said, he does not wear, for example, clothes that are fancy and valuable, and then he clothes his wife with the most lowliest of clothes, or something that's too small, or something that's too big, or something that's too tight, where he said those affairs that are what? Incomplete. He said that this is oppression. So this shows what everyone, that the affair is binding upon the man. Then he says, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, do not uglify the face. Oh, I'm sorry. La tadrib al-wajh. Do not strike the face. Do not strike the face, nor uglify it. Do not strike the face, nor uglify. I think striking the face is clear. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, do not strike the face. From this is different. There's a couple of affairs we want to extract from this. Number one, you'll find that Ahl Ilm say it is not permissible to strike a woman in the face in all circumstances. Mutlaqan. It is not permissible to strike in the face in all circumstances. There is no exception to it. It's not permissible to strike in the face, especially in the face of a woman. It's not even permissible to strike in the face of an animal. How much more for a person? You cannot even hit an animal in the face. How much more than a human being and also a woman? As we know, as we discussed maybe about 3 weeks, maybe a month ago, we talked about the circumstances when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talk about hitting, or what does it mean? It's not hitting, but striking. We talked about and gave details of what it meant. Is it clear, everyone? I think we discussed that already. And we know that's the last alternative, it's the last option. And also, it cannot be in the face, as we discussed, nor it can't even leave a what? A mark, a broken bone, or shed of blood, or a bruise, or bump, or what have you. All of those affairs has been explained, and we explained it in class. And also the strike, which doesn't leave a mark or doesn't leave a bruise, that is the last alternative. It's the last alternative as mentioned in the ayah. And Ibn Abbas clearly mentioned when he said that do not strike, in the meaning of the darb, غير مبرح. Alhamdulillah. That the strike is غير مبرح, as Ibn Abbas and other than him mentioned in tafsir, that the strike is غير مبرح. غير مبرح meaning that it doesn't leave a bruise or a broken bone or a mark or what have you. So this is refutation also against those what? Those from the Orientalists that say, see, your book says that Allah allows men to beat up women. That's not the meaning of the ayah. For verily, brothers and sisters, if you want to now clarify to a non-Muslim the correct interpretation, you always have to go back to the authentic sunnah and the understanding of the companions. Then that will clarify everything. And that's what you utilize in order to clarify and bring them to understand or make them comprehend what is the meanings of these ayats and verses. And do not use your emotions and your feelings and speech of people who are deviant to justify. For example, you even find people who are from deviants, they'll even say statements of disbelief. Or they'll say statements that shows that they want to what? They want to water it down or compromise. For example, they'll say, oh yeah, that ayah, I don't agree with that. Or that ayah, yeah, I know that, I apologize to you for this ayah. Apologize. This is the haqq from beginning to end. And if you listen to the explanation from the Sahaba and the Prophet ﷺ, you will know what it means. So you can what? So you can still know that it's still the truth. But you'll find there are Muslims out there, especially that those at the heads that compromise or they want to apologize. They are from the deviant sects because they have no foundation. Knowing that they had the foundation, they wouldn't apologize for anything that's in Kitab and Sunnah. So that's the reason why we said that the meaning of hit here is the Prophet ﷺ. Firstly, Allah Ta'ala says in his book that he says, فَإِن تَخَافَنَّ النُّشُوزِ, meaning say, as far as the word nushuz means marital discord. If you're afraid of marital discord, he says, فَعِذُوهُنَّ, then exhort them, meaning give them advice. That's the first step. Advise them. فَعِذُوهُنَّ, exhort them, meaning advise them, redirect them, speak to them. Not hollering and screaming, calling them out of their name. I have to say this because a lot of our brothers do this. Calling them with using vulgar profanity and calling them the B word to the end of it. No. Advise them. Sit them down and redirect them. Advise them. Exhort them. So that's the first command of Allah. فَعِذُوهُنْ وَهْجُرُوهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ وَضْرِبُوهُنْ. Then the second is what? Boycotting. And that's going to be in the second part of the narration if you look in your books. That's going to come. If you look in the narration, if everyone looks in their books, it says that. It says about boycotting, which is going to come. So that's the second step, and then we know the third. The last one is what Allah says is what, everyone? فَضْرِبُوهُنْ. He said, then strike them or hit them. فَإِنْ أَطَعْنَكُمْ فَلَا تَبْغُوا عَلَيْهِنَّ السَّبِيلَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ عَلِيًّا كَبِيرًا. There's Allah Ta'ala says in his book, if they comply, return back to compliance with obedience and do what's correct, he says, فَلَا تَبْغُوا عَلَيْهِنَّ السَّبِيلَ. Do not start to now continue to treat them in this manner. Discontinue this. Go back and resume the affairs of what will bring harmony. Verily, Allah is Aliyan Kabira. Verily, He's the Most High, and He's the All-Powerful, and He is Kabir. He is all-powerful and bigger than everything. And Allah truly is bigger than everything. طيب. فَيَا مَعِشَ الْإِخْوَةِ. This is also to put in perspective the meaning of strike. So the meaning of strike, as Ibn Abbas, if you go back to the tafsir of it, Ibn Kathir does mention this, if you go back to the tafsir of it. He said it is a strike that doesn't leave any mark, doesn't leave a broken bone, it does not leave a bruise, it does not leave blood, it does not need burn, none of these affairs. A light strike. So that shows that what? That our religion, walillahi alhamd, is a religion that's perfect, and that is the meaning of strike in the ayah. It's incumbent upon one to gain knowledge. So when the mustashriqeen, the Orientalists, and those from the enemies of Islam try to instill doubt in you, you explain it to them in this manner. So they say, see, your religion allows women to be beaten up, because you'll find people that say that out there. See, your religion condones abuse of women. See, it's right here in the ayah. And you always, like we said, brothers and sisters, when you engage inside of a refutation, always look to the first part of the ayah or the last part of the ayah. So you say, now go back. In order for us to understand it properly, look at it. Firstly, you'll find it's firstly talked about in a state of marital discord. Marital discord takes place. And it wasn't in a state, and I have to say this for our brothers, and it's in a state where the man is doing the best that he can. Because we know brothers try to apply this ayah even though he's not doing anything for the sister. For verily Allah is addressing the men that are doing and holding their responsibilities or fulfilling their responsibilities to the best of their ability. For verily now, if you're not doing what the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you don't shelter her, you don't clothe her, you don't feed her, or you're being unjust in all these affairs, how do you really think that you're going to have how do you really think you're going to have a good marriage? How? The natural reaction of the woman is going to be, firstly, she's going to lose respect. She's going to lose respect for you. Because women who are good women will what? Feel bad when she sees her husband doing the best that he can, but it's just not enough. And if he exhorts her, she will what? Feel some type of way. And she will comply. If she's a good woman. If she's a good woman that is humble, and she sees that her husband is struggling and doing the best that he can, she will return back to obedience. And knowing that these steps that Allah has given in order to redirect his wife, that she will comply. We're not talking about brothers that don't do anything and making a bunch of excuses. For verily, a woman in this instance is going to what? Go against and oppose her what? Her husband. Especially if she's the one working and he's the one sitting in the house doing nothing. Now the roles have been switched. Now problems are going to occur in the house. It's not going to be a harmonious, if you want to say, comfortable marriage now. Because you're not doing what you're supposed to do. These ayat are talking about the men that's doing their best to what? To uphold what Allah has commanded. That they're carrying out and doing the best that they can. And when a woman that's a good woman sees that their husband are doing the best that they can, she's going to respect him. She's going to hold him in high esteem. So if he was to carry out, so if now marital discord was to take place in this circumstance, it will have an effect. So now if he was to now, let's just say, advise her, she's going to comply. Or if he was to boycott her in the house, it's going to affect her. Especially if he goes to the last option of the type of light beat that is mentioned here in the last part of the ayah. It's going to have an effect because she sees that he's a good person and he's a good, respectable, honorable man. And even though he's doing the best that he can, even though it's a little bit coming up short, she's still going to have respect for him because she sees that he's doing the best that he can. She sees it. And if a good woman, honorable woman, if she sees this and her husband exhorts her, advises her, it's going to what? Have an effect. Because she holds his speech and what he says in high esteem and respect. We're not talking about those men, like we said, that are what? Not fulfilling their obligations. That are being very neglectful. Haven't had a job for 2, 3, or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, as I've heard certain stories. And I couldn't believe it. Not having any type of what? Job. And then expecting to have absolute obedience from his wife. That does not make any sense. And then I also advise my sisters, again, do not tolerate this type of behavior. For verily you're going to plunge yourself in a dungeon, in a low level of what? Of becoming bitter. If the marriage was not to work out, and to the point you will be highly upset, and you'll be upset with yourself that I let it prolong this long amount of time. As I've heard sisters tolerate from brothers that haven't had a job for 5 or 6 years. I said, how in the world did you what? Tolerate that? A man that hasn't had a job, okay, we know that certain circumstances happen. Circumstances happen, they come up. We're not talking about circumstances where a man might have got laid off all of a sudden. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about a man that became sick or he got injured or what have you. They're not talking about that circumstances. We're talking about a man that hasn't had a job willingly for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Those type of circumstances should not be tolerated. And the tough love for men, sisters, you should know, will benefit him. And if you keep now inciting this type of what? This type of circumstances, he will continue to be trifling. He will continue this behavior. When people start to now, like I said last week, we need to learn to be patient with things that deserves patience. And we need to learn to what? Not tolerate things that doesn't deserve to be tolerated. So we do not at the end become bitter if it didn't work out. As I said, that was advice to myself. If I was to what? Look at myself 20 years ago and advise myself, I would say to myself, be patient with things that deserves to be patient with. And do not tolerate things that does not deserve to be tolerated. So you do not become a bitter person in the end. So these affairs in regards to the ayah, or Allah Ta'ala what the Allah says in this book, then strike them, meaning the women is the last option. Like we said, those are for those men, walillahi alhamd, that are fulfilling their obligations to the best of their ability. To the best of their ability. And as a reciprocal, the woman who's a good, honorable, great woman will what? Also honor her husband. And if he does what? If he's advising her, that speech and that advice will have an effect because she loves him and she respects him because she sees he's doing the best that he can. I've heard stories that about sisters, and this is the last thing I'm going to continue in the hadith. Sisters that lose respect, they want to boycott, and the woman will say to her, I would. She said, I'm happy that you boycotting the bed with me. I don't want to sleep to you next to you anyway. We're talking about in regards to what, I've said this and I've heard this. And I said, well, why you say this? She said, he doesn't provide. He doesn't do anything. Oh, so that's you lost respect. Now, if it was in a circumstance where he was now a person that's responsible, she says this, she's in the wrong. And also likewise, not saying it's justifiable that a woman would say this, but the fact that she says this and if you examine the situation, you'll find that the man is doing a lot of affairs that are what? That are incorrect in mistreatment and also pertaining to affairs where he's coming up in regards to taking care of his family. In this regard, you'll find that women lose respect. And she will fall into sin if she stays in this situation. That's the reason why, like we said, if it gets to the point where a person now is going to be disobedient, then they need to what? Kindly separate. And I say this to everyone. Say this to all of us of rectification of our families. We need to stop this one. We need to stop this cycle of staying in relationships where we become bitter and we start to pass issues on to our children when they witness behavior that does not befit between two spouses, especially in hollering and screaming and mistreatment and domestic abuse, where children see this, it get passed on to them. And they think that this is the way a Muslim household is supposed to be ran and condoned, and in actuality, it's wrong. It's all wrong. And I do not condone this. And if you look at Kitab al-Sunnah, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ did not condone his household or run his households in this regard, where they was hollering or screaming or cursing or vulgar language or profanity or beating or striking or as they say in the street nowadays, turning up. All these affairs are wrong. And it's incumbent upon us to acknowledge that it's wrong so we can stop this cycle of passing issues on to our children. That now, to the point, it's so bad out there, it seems like women and men and our brothers and sisters don't look for a spouse except that they find these qualities in them. That's what they want. That they look for a sister that turns up. They look for a sister that likes to holler and scream. And if they don't have it in them, and if they don't do it, they'll try to bring it out of them. And vice versa. You'll find that there's sisters out there that as a man, that you'll find that this is what she looks for. She's looking for a man to beat her up. She's looking for a man to mistreat her. She's looking for a man to holler at her. He's looking for a man to mentally abuse her or beat her self-esteem down. And then you'll find, sister, why are you putting up with that? Oh, he's just what? He's just going through something. Or you'll find that about the man that treats her kindly in accordance to the Kitab al-Sunnah with kind words. She starts to think that he's soft. A man that treats her with good kindness and kind words, oh, he's soft. What's wrong with you? So you're looking for a man to smack you upside your head. You looking for a man to call you out your name? And if the woman marries a man and they see that this is not his behavior, she'll try to bring it out of him. I'm gonna bring the evil out of you because this is what? This is a sickness that has been instilled from us and it has nothing to do with the religion. All of these affairs are connected to how we were brought up before we were Muslim. And we need to leave it off. It's improper, unacceptable behavior. It has nothing to do with the religion. Rather, the religion makes war with this type of behavior because it comes as a result of it, of tearing down families and passing on dysfunctional behavior to our families and our children, because when they grow up, they're going to look for a spouse just like this. And the cycle goes on and on and on, and it never stops. That's the reason why we say, do not stay in these relationships if you find and see. And I tell this to our brothers. If you marry a woman and she sees she's trying to bring this evil out of you and bring this characteristic of evil out of you, leave her. Do not go into marriage because she's pretty, or that she has a nice body, or that she has this, or that has this wealth, or she has this nice car. And that's especially, you should not be marrying a woman for what she has, to take advantage. Because we know a lot of our brothers like to size up these women, because I've heard them say it, to size her up. She has something worldly, I'm going to be patient because I could take advantage. No. You marry a person because you see that they truly trying to fear Allah. And if they do have something worldly, then that's just on the side. But that's not the ultimate reason of why you want to what? Make it your reason why you want to marry her. The religion comes first, and then if you into her and you like her, and vice versa, same thing. Women should now be looking at for men, I'm going to marry him just because he drives this car. Or I marry him because he just has this. No. Every person wants them to be what? Like, everyone wants to be loved based upon them as a person, starting with the religion, and then being upright people. Nobody wants to now come in a relationship in the back of their mind, they just marry because you have something worldly. And I just want to take advantage of it. If that's the case, like we said, and I'm going to get back to this again. If you see that your spouse is bringing some evil out of you, she's making you now. We'll find that a man is trying to bring this evil out of you. He's trying to make you come out your character. And you see he's trying to do this to you, leave him. Request him and say, listen, brother, I didn't get married for you to make me an ignorant individual. I did not marry you. You did not marry me for us to now have dysfunctional behavior in our household. I did not marry you for you to bring the evil qualities out of me. I married you because, number one, because we're Muslim, we're both trying to fear Allah. And number two, we're trying to enhance our good qualities and enhance our good qualities in each other and bring them out of each other. Bring our good qualities out of each other. And shun the evil individual that we were before we were Muslim, before we meet Allah, because we know that character is going to take us to hell. So why do you want to bring that out of me? Leave that where it is, in the hellfire. I don't want to be that person who you're trying to bring out of me. Leave it. We either going to be married, number one, because we're both trying to bring the good qualities out of each other. And we're trying to enhance it and be better people ultimately. That's the reason why we get married. We don't get married to bring evil out of each other or to turn up. This is behavior before Islam. And a lot of us carry it in the religion with us. They think it's justifiable. Or that's what the Muslims do. I seen so-and-so, Sister Fatima cursing at her husband. Or I seen Brother Muhammad, I seen him domestically beating his wife. Then it was such and such masjid, so that means it's right. No, it isn't right. And I don't care who does it. I don't care if it's masjid, this person do it, that person, it's all wrong. If AbdurRazzaaq did it, he's wrong. Why? Because at the scales of the people is all based upon Kitab Sunnah. The Prophet say something conduct like that? Yes or no? No. Okay. That's what's correct then. The Messenger of Allah smack his wife in front of a masjid? The Messenger of Allah cursing his wife in front of a masjid? I'm asking a simple question. Did he do it? No. Okay, so why are you not trying to emulate that then? The Messenger of Allah scream and holler and argue outside? Huh? Simple questions. This is what we have to ask ourselves. So now if you see this, and you see your spouse is trying to bring these characteristics out of you, it's time for you to go. This type of behavior cannot be tolerated. It's time to go. Leave. Listen, brother, you bringing this evil side out of me. That I didn't come to the religion for a person to now bring this side out of me. I came to the religion for you to make me a better person. And same thing brothers need to do too. Because I've heard brothers all the time. I heard brothers with my own ears said that I like a woman to be drama a little bit. I like the drama. I like that drama. And you look at it, I'll be like, what did you say? Oh, I like the drama. I think that's cute. The sucking the teeth and the sassiness and the talking smart and the clucking the neck and the talk and the foul talk and the hollering, the screaming and all these things. And I said to the brother, that's what you're looking for in a woman? That's going to raise your kids and more than likely pass those same qualities on to your children? That's what you're looking for? That's what we're trying to say to our brothers and sisters. We need to reevaluate our situations or who we look for as spouses and know what to tolerate and what not to tolerate. If we see that our husbands and our wives is bringing these qualities out of us, we need to now what? It's time to go. I'm sorry. I love you for Allah, but I love myself and in my condition, in my state with my Lord and the hereafter more. So it's time for us to go. You bringing me. I seen myself before I married you. I never used to use any profanity. Now when I married you, I'm using profanity left and right now. Or you see, for example, I never used to raise my voice. I used to be a calm, cool, collective individual. Now when I'm with you, I'm hollering all the time. I'm always raising my voice all the time, or majority of the time, or days, something. I used to be a calm, cool, collective. My religion was more intact until I met you. So these are the affairs, brothers and sisters, we need to what? We get married, and I want everybody to remember this, please. We get married ultimately to make ourselves better people in fear of Allah and bringing the good out of one another, not the evil. If we have that in our minds, our marriages will stay intact. We get married to bring good out of each other. We marry in order to find out what makes our spouses happy. And it's certain, and if you listen to a lot of circumstances that I've talked and heard and I've examined, you'll find it does not take a lot to make these sisters and these brothers happy. It doesn't take a lot. Little things. These are the things that we need to take the time out to do. Find out what makes you happy. What makes you happy as a person. You'll find that I've heard sisters say this. I just like that my husband come home and I said, and I look at the brother right now. I said, listen to your wife now telling you what makes her happy. And the sister would say, I like when he comes home and I like when he buys a candy bar from the store. I like to eat, for example, I like a Kit Kat. And I'm glad that he brings that home. That goes a long way with me. And he'll have his head down. For a brother, sister would say to me, my husband, I like it when he used to bring, some women are into flowers, some of them aren't. I like it when he just brings the flowers home, even though some women will say, I don't like the flowers, but it's the thought that he just thought about me. Or, for example, you have numerous examples. But these are the things we have to find out, even and vice versa. And don't think that I'm leaving the sisters out, the brothers. Sisters, same thing. Sisters, find what your husband, what makes him happy as a man. Like us men, and it's sad to say, it's like we shouldn't be treated as just animals. We're just supposed to provide and dog ourselves out without feeling some type of what? Without some type of good treatment from our spouses likewise. Sisters, you need to also ask your husband, what makes you happy? What puts a smile on your face? Certain brothers will say something, if he's a good brother, a lot of brothers will say certain things that are small. I like it when you come in the house and I come in the house and you smile at me. And you give me a hug and a kiss. And give me a hug when I walk in the door. I like that. That brings that makes me feel happy after I had a long day. It soothes my stress. Small things. Do we do it? No. All we look for is, and Shaitan puts on our mind, how can I make him mad? And then men, same thing. How can I irritate her? How? I want to figure it out. Yeah, Shaitan said, yeah. Figure it out. Find what makes her mad. That's what we do. So these are the things we need to think about. We marry each other to make each other better people. We married each other to find out what makes each other happy. We're not talking about that things that will come up in circumstances that things happen. They happen. But ultimately we need to not figure out these things so we can keep our marriages intact. And knowing how to not overburden one another of what we cannot tolerate. If you see that your husband is looking like he's about to lose his mind because he's working so hard. Or if you see that your wife, brothers, is about to lose her mind because she's doing so much, because she's wearing so much hats, you need to calm it down. Take the pressure off. This needs to stop. If it doesn't stop, what happens is all these characteristics of negativity gets carried on with our lineage and our children. And they think that so one of two things happen. They either look for a spouse similar to what took place in our households, or they detest wanting to get married to a Muslim man or Muslim woman. They'll detest it. I don't even want to get married. And I've heard some children say this. See how my mom and dad act? I don't even want to get married. Seeing how my mom and dad act, I don't want to marry a Muslim man. And I'm sure everyone in this room listening online agrees with what I'm saying, because they all probably heard something similar to that. And that's the truth. And we have to suck it in and do something to rectify it. How do we do it? Go back to what the Prophet ﷺ did. Clear. Messenger of Allah had good character, good treatment, good tolerance, great man, great best example. We have it. Why do we keep having these problems then? At any rate, getting back to the hadith. So you'll find that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ had also mentioned, it said, everyone, do not uglify the face. If you look in the book, it said, do not uglify. La tuqabbih al-wajh. La tuqabbih. So number one, do not uglify the face, as we talked about. I think we explained this weeks ago. That uglifying the face, it breaks down into two types. One is, matter of fact, it brings out one to that. Number one is physically hitting. Physically hitting the face. As we know, that's not permissible at all. And if a woman was struck in the face as he was in Islamic court, and if a woman went to the Islamic court, we was in an Islamic country, she had two black eyes, the judge would now put a punishment on that man for doing that. A lot of women don't know that. If he was in an Islamic country, if a woman with black eyes and a broken arm came to the Muslim judge and showed her this, my husband did this to me, the judge would call the husband in. Come in. You did this to your wife? You did this to your wife? You blackened her eye. You did this? Huh? Yes, I did. Now the judge would see fit of what would be a punishment for you. This will happen in an Islamic court. So it could be a deterrent for not to do this. And this behavior is unacceptable. So you'll find number one, it says, do not uglify the face, number one, by striking it. Number two, also the meaning of uglifying the face, you'll find that it says, that even Ibn Uthaymeen mentioned this in this regard. Well, he already said that. Alhamdulillah, he said hitting. He said that either by saying to a woman, oh, ugly one, or you're ugly. I can't stand to look at you. Looking at you makes me feel uncomfortable just looking at you. All this type of speech is impermissible. It goes against the religion. Opposes kitab and sunnah. Oppose madhab as-salaf as-salih. Does not agree with it. Unacceptable behavior. For you to say to your wife, you ugly, despicable woman, I can't even look at you. I can't even look at you. It is impermissible for a man to say this out of his mouth, especially to his spouse and to his wife. And vice versa. It is not permissible for a woman to say this to her husband. Oh, ugly one. Looking at you makes me feel uncomfortable, or what have you, or anything similar to that. Or, as Ibn Uthaymeen says, that the meaning is of uglifying the face is making dua against her. Like, for example, saying, قَبَّحَ اللَّهُ وَجْهَكَ. May Allah uglify your face. Or may Allah make you ugly. Or may Allah make your what? Make your face black. All these statements is impermissible. And is the meaning what the Messenger of Allah said, do not uglify the face. These are also the meaning is comprehensive for all these different what? All these different examples that we're given now. It's examples for all of this. So brothers and sisters, you see the beauty of the religion of Islam. You see how beautiful it is, how the Messenger of Allah shows respect. And he commanded respect to the people to what? To learn it and treat each other as in such or as such. So anyone that reads these ahadith will love Islam and love Salafiyah, because it shows that how we're supposed, we take the opposite of these meanings is that we're supposed to say what? Nice statements. Oh, beautiful one. Oh, one that I just can't take my eyes off of. Oh, one that makes me feel that makes me feel when I look at it, I just love enjoying looking at you. That's what we're commanded to say. And as we know, there's nothing wrong with saying, for example, to your wife or your husband, oh, sexy one. There's nothing wrong with that. Oh, sexy one. With a smile. What's wrong with that? So what's taken from these ahadith is the opposite. La tuqabbih. Do not what? Uglify. So it's comprehensive for all these meanings. So number one, of course, we know not to strike, because that's frank, and what the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said. That's frank. Then you have, he said, do not uglify, which can mean either by saying verbally to your spouse, oh, ugly one, or one who has an ugly face, or it can mean dua. It can mean dua by saying, may Allah uglify you, or may Allah make your face black, or anything similar to those statements. All those statements are what? Are unacceptable, and they're all impermissible. They're all impermissible. And like we talked about, brothers and sisters, if we was in an Islamic state, matter of fact, if we was in an Islamic country, because I don't want nobody to think we're talking about ISIS. If we was in an Islamic country, and these things, these affairs were took it to the judge, he would put a punishment on the person. Because this type of behavior is unacceptable in the homes, in the household with the families, to deal with them, to deal with each other in this type of manner. The judge will issue some type of what? Punishment. If he was to speak to his wife in this manner, or the woman was to speak to her husband in this manner. Then the Messenger of Allah, matter of fact, we'll stop here. Look, we'll stop at the last part of the hadith where it says, وَلَا تَهْجُرْ. Do not boycott except in the house. You'll find that the great Imam, Sheikh Salih Fawzan, he said in regards to this too, this first, the last part of the hadith, and we'll stop. I even mention what he says quickly. Even with Sheikh Salih Fawzan, listen what he says. He said, when the Prophet ﷺ said, La tuqabbih, don't uglify or vilify. He says, by saying, may Allah uglify you. Or by saying, may Allah humiliate you. Akhzakillah. For a person or a spouse might say to his wife, Akhzakillah, may Allah humiliate you. Or may Allah curse you. Or anything similar to that. He says, a man or a spouse or a woman does not use this speech with their spouse. لا يستعمل الكلام النابي, meaning speech that's what? Vulgar, that attacks and hurts people's feelings. He said, بل يستعمل الكلام الطيب. He uses what? Good speech. Because Allah Ta'ala says in his book, وَقُولُوا لِلنَّاسِ حُسْنًا. He says that a person, people have been obliged to say to the people good. As it comes to Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah number 83. He said, وَهَذَا لِعُمُومِ النَّاسِ يَقُولُ لَهُمْ كَلَامًا طَيِّبًا. He said, this is generally for everyone. Generally for everyone, that people say pleasant speech. He said, if Allah commanded generally to the creation to say pleasant speech to each other, how much more that he says to his own wife, or his own spouse, or his or her own spouse, or family members, or children, or uncle, or mom, or what have you, or the children to their parents, and vice versa. He said that they say pleasant speech. وَلَا يَقُولُ لَهُمْ كَلَامًا سَيِّئًا. He says that they do not say evil speech by uglifying or vilifying or cursing or insulting or using vulgarity or speech or cursing or whatever. All this is from, listen to what he says, of the why the great Imam, Hafid ibn Hajar put this in the chapter, all this opposes Husnul Ishra. All of it opposes good dealings in the household, of treatment amongst one's families. This is all part of it, what they call the opposite, which is called su'ul ishra, bad dealings between the spouses. Because bad dealings, part of it is striking the face. Part of bad dealings of the household is cursing, insulting, making dua against the person. May Allah uglify your face. May Allah humiliate you. May Allah curse you. All this is from evil, su'ul ishra, bad dealings. Then the great Imam, he goes on to talk about the 3 steps that we already explained, we already talked about. So put on where we stopped at, everyone. We stopped at where it says, do not boycott except in the house. And we'll talk about the different types of ways of boycotting next week, inshallah. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك وأشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Is there any questions about the lesson?